Hey guys, my name is Reddy, and you guys are probably loving my videos so far. If you haven't watched them, click on my channel or something, go watch the videos, you'll have a lot of fun. Now, a year ago, I ran this program called the Elite E-Commerce Bootcamp. Okay, and this is one of the biggest programs in the e-commerce space. Tons of people made a lot of money with it. It created over 3 7-figure earners, 6 6-figure earners, whatever, right? It is the best program. I wanted to over deliver on this program as I usually do. So I'm like, dude, like these guys, like, I've shot a ton of content, but I want to help them even more. I want to make this process easier for them. So in order to do that, I actually went up to Steve Gray, a good friend of mine, and Steve's built a $30 million a year business. Like his business does $30 million a year, and he's done over $100 million in sales collectively over the last few years. So I'm like, Steve, dude, like, you gotta come in and show like my guys how you do it. And it took me a bit, but I persuaded him to like come show my members how he built an 8-figure business. And he did a webinar. It was so insanely valuable. He broke down the exact system that he used. He gave away all the secrets. And this webinar was only exclusively available to the people that bought my programs or bought any of my courses so far. But in an attempt to grow out my YouTube channel and add a lot of value to the community, I've decided to give it away. So with that said, guys, enjoy the webinar. This is fun and you're going to have a lot of information. So again, remember to take notes because this is one of the best webinars I've ever watched. I've watched this personally five times at least. Okay, so have fun, guys. All right. Hey guys, my name is Reddy and welcome to this webinar, this guest webinar actually. And today we have a very great guest on the webinar, okay? That is Steve Gray. I've known him for a few years now. He's done some amazing stuff with his businesses. He runs Primal Health, Ultimate Survival Strategies, and a few other businesses. Primal, I think, actually did about $100 million in sales so far. And he only started it in 2013, so that's pretty impressive. $100 million, guys, right? Because one of the things in this business is we get so caught up, with business models. So we're like, what do we do? Like, do I do drop shipping? Do I do print on demand? And you have all these questions, but we forget the long viewpoint. We forget the I forgot the word here. Jesus. Okay, we forget the long view, right, of the business or the large scale of the business. And this is one of the most important webinars because obviously I've gone through the slides, I've gone through the content, so I know what's in it. As a matter of fact, this is kind of like my Bible right now to refer to whenever I want help with building my business to the 9-figure level or the 7 to 8-figure level either. You know what I mean? So in this webinar, he's actually going to be talking to you about how to build a 6, 7, or 8-figure business, and he's going to run you through exactly what to do. Now, Steve's a pretty great dude. He's done events with Russell Brunson where he's spoken on stage. He had a course with a very top email marketer, and he's worked with some of the best people in the business. So you guys are in for a great treat. I'll let him take it over from here, guys. All right, enjoy the webinar because I'm actually going to be watching the webinar too. So yeah, enjoy the webinar, guys.
Hey, thanks for that great intro, Ace. I appreciate it. And hello, everybody that's on right now listening to this presentation. My name's Steve Gray, as Ace said, and over the next little while, I hope to give you a lot of great information, a lot of great value that I've learned over the last 15 to 17 years doing this online marketing business. And so with that, we're going to kick off with what I have here today, calling presentation right now. The working name is Predictable Profits, and it's how to build a 6, 7, or 8-figure business and still have a life. So let's get into it here, and let's get going. So first off, a few notes before we begin. I want you to know that I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but there's nothing to buy. This is not a typical webinar that you would experience where I'm going to give you a bunch of content, then pitch you on something at the end and expect you to buy something. There is no pitch. There is no product. This is an honest training with pure content. So make sure you have something to take notes with. I'm sure you're going to have questions, and if you do have questions, write them down. We'll address them at the end and be able to get those questions answered for you. So make sure you have some uninterrupted time to listen and focus, because most of the time they say that for a sales presentation. This actually is because we're covering a lot of information, and will make it easier if you're able to pay attention and not miss some of the more detailed information. So with that being said, let me tell you a little bit about me. Quick slide here. I've been online now for quite a while. My first kind of business experience, business success, was working at a .com called CyberCorp in 1997. I was 19 at the time. And I think I was the 5th person in the company. 3 years later, in 2000, we sold for $488 million to Schwab, and I walked away with about $3 million of my own. I got into Herbalife in 2002 and figured out how to sell the products online. I was at an event, and somebody was talking about how they were selling $50,000 or $60,000 worth of product online, and at that time I thought, oh my gosh, if I could do that, I'd be set, right? That's all I'd need. I could do that, and it'd be awesome. And so I ended up building a site. This is way back when they had Yahoo stores. They may still have those, and stomping the search engines for those of you that know what that is. And if you don't, you can look it up for Internet Nostalgia. That was one of the first SEO courses that was sold by Brad Fallons and Andy Jenkins way back when. So a whole nother story that I could do a whole nother webinar on is the fact that I ended up broke by 2004. So, $3 million in the bank, 2002. By 2004, 2005, around it, we pretty much had nothing left, and I had to go back and work for my dad for a little while. And I started doing some ClickBank affiliate marketing. That's what CB stands for. In that time, in 2004, 2005 time frame, and started to make some progress. Like I said, I had done some promotion already with Herbalife, so I knew a little bit about online marketing, but hadn't messed with affiliate marketing at that point. So got into that, started doing well with World of Warcraft, and then I built my first offer in 2007, which was called Warcraft Gold, and turned that into a business, built on that. Continued doing that, and then got into the do-it-yourself solar panel market around 2008 to 2011, and that was kind of my first big success in terms of volume, where we were doing hundreds of orders a day, and really started to see the power and the ability that all the online marketing and advertising can provide when you get all the dials dialed in. So started Primal in 2012, my other company, Ultimate Survival Strategies, in 2013. And I also helped, I'll tell you a little bit more about Primal in a second, but I've also helped a trial supplement business in the 13-14 time frame. We went from 0 to 20 million in 1 year. Again, this was not typical, but we had all the dials turned in just right, and we bought some traffic to an offer that was already working, and helped them scale that up very quickly. So that was an interesting experience. That also kind of crashed and burned, which I'll talk about here later as we get into the content. And then I've pretty much run every kind of business model online, from Amazon to drop shipping to eBay, affiliate marketing, CPA stuff, like you name it, I've probably done it. So lots of experience, lots of insight, and what I'm going to share with you is what I've taken from all of that experience and come up with kind of a plan that works really well to scale businesses online. So with that being said, Primal Labs started 2012. We've been a 3-time Inc. 5000 fastest growing company, a winner. You can see the revenue numbers there, 600K, 3.7, 5.1, 11.5, 32, 30, and then in 17, when we did the 32 million, we Google and Facebook turned off all of our advertising, and we had to kind of rebuild. We rode out a lot of recurring in 18, where we did 30 million, and then in 19 we had to rebuild again. So this year I think we'll do probably 20 to 25, maybe a little bit more if we get all the variables right. And as you can see, we've done over $100 million in sales. So again, I want to get on into the meat. I don't want to keep talking about myself here, but I just let you know that the stuff that I'm going to tell you is from real world experience. It's not me making something up to sell you. It's actually stuff that I've done myself and have found very, very helpful. So here's what we're going to cover today. The title of the webinar is 8-Figure Freedom, right? So 8 figures being a $10 million plus company. But the reality is you don't get to 10 million out, from a standing start. It takes a while to grow there. And every company, from my experience, goes through some very distinct stages. And those stages is what we're going to cover today. The first stage is kind of your $0 to $100,000. This is where you've got an idea, you want to get a business going, and you want to get it selling, get the product going. So that's kind of the first part. That's just the infancy of the business. Then that should say 100K to $1 million, not 0 to $1 million. I'm sorry about that. But that's creating and systematizing your marketing and support structure as you kind of scale up what's working. And then after that, you have the 1 million to 10 million range, which is basically kind of repeating what you've done to get to $1 million with different products, and then rinse and repeat of all of that to go 10 million plus. So you'll see how this all breaks down as we keep going. So all right, so here's the thing is that learning from whoever you've learned from this far for online marketing, you probably know that there's not a whole lot of new stuff, so to say. Like what I'm going to teach you here and talk about today is based on fundamentals, because I found that fundamentals work. Like it's not the new Facebook ad trick that makes your business grow. It is the process of acquiring customers, monetizing those customers, and getting them to buy more things over time. So that's what I call the fundamentals, and it's we're not going to focus on, like, you're not going to hear any tricks and tactics and little special things in this presentation. It's all going to be basic fundamental business building. And one of the things that I've done and where I was trying to get to at this point is the fact that you will notice that there are certain things, certain models, certain strategies that work over and over and over again. And that's why I put Agora down here and Michael Masterson. Agora's been around for 40 years. They do over $1 billion in sales through multiple of their companies. They're a direct response industry giant, and certainly somebody to model and look up to. And so, Michael Ford, he's been, or Michael Masterson is his pen name, has been a major influence in their business. And that is why I list him here, because he's got a book, what I call the playbook, or it's a book called Ready, Fire, Aim, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But it breaks down everything that I told you just a minute ago about the different segments and different pieces different time frames that a business goes through in their growth. And it was very eye-opening for me, something that I've used all the time for building my businesses. And if you haven't got it, I would definitely buy it. It's a great read. So again, finishing up here, it's fundamentals we're talking about. We're not talking about tips and tricks. This is the underlying rules and strategies that make businesses like this work. And as you can see there at the end, Vince Lombardi, there's a story, you can look it up, but he started off the season with, this is a football, right? He's talking to people that were the highest level performers in football and in their league, and he started off the season with, hey, this is a football. Of course they know it's a football, but the point was it starts with the basics and the fundamentals. So here's business success in 3 steps, right? We talked about this a little bit already, but what you're doing, while you're selling stuff online, yes, you're either selling an e-com store, or you've got an info product business that you're promoting, but ultimately what you're doing is you're finding a pocket of customers to serve, and you're going to develop a marketing and sales system that turns those prospects into customers, and then you're going to do everything you can to get those customers to spend money with you, more and more money with you over time. That is business, direct response, any kind of business in a nutshell. Like, that is what you're doing. You're acquiring customers, you're making them happy, and you're getting them to buy more stuff. So here's 3 ways to grow, right? These are the only 3 ways that you can get your business to grow. You can either go get more customers, you can get those customers to buy more often, meaning more transactions from you, and you can get your customers to spend more money per transaction, right? So either higher cost products, ascension, etc. And obviously if you combine all those, then the business really, really grows. So again, just keep in mind that there's not a whole lot of magic steps to getting business. You're either going to get more customers, get them to buy more things from you, or get them to spend more money per transaction. And those are the main 3 ways. So Here is how I look at business, right? I call it a game of resources. It's not not a magic thing. Most people starting out, maybe you don't have a lot of money, right? You don't have there's two resources, money and time. And either you have a lot of money or some money and not very much time, or you don't have any money and you probably have more time. And so what you have to do is you have to, you start with nothing and you get some resources. And that's what I mean. You either have money, a little bit to invest, or you have time, or you have a little bit of both, but those are your resources to start. And you have to deploy those resources to generate more resources, which in this case is more money, right? So you're starting an e-com store, you're starting an info marketing business, whatever it is, an agency, whatever you're working on, you're putting your time and money into that to generate more income and profit. Now, most people, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people will take that profit and they'll go spend it, and then they just spent the resources. But what you need to do if you want to grow is you want to deploy those resources back into the business, and then you're going to build a system, in essence, to manage the deployment of those resources. And I know this is somewhat nebulous in the description, but this is ultimately what you're doing when you're building your business. You're generating money, you're generating profit, you're putting back in the business, you're building systems and people to manage that, right? So you hire people to manage the system, and then you go build another system and deploy more resources and repeat, right? So the faster you get your resources to pay back and get an ROI on them, and the more you put in, the faster that you can grow, right? So the more investment that you make and the faster that investment pays back really determines your growth rate for the business. So again, big picture here, we're going to start moving into some details, but this is how I look at business. It's like, get something working, make it work a little bit better, put some more money and time into it to generate even more, and then you keep growing. So let's kind of get into the specifics and the details here of what we are talking about in the different phases of business growth. So first is 0 to 100K, and I say it's not that hard, right? It's really not that hard to generate $100,000 in revenue. And what I mean by that is if you do 10 sales a day at $30 a sale, every day of the year, it's $109,000, $109,500. So if you've not sold anything, you're probably thinking, holy crap, 10 sales a day is impossible. Well, if you've sold one or two a day, or even you've gotten your first sale, or you get your first sale and maybe you get one every other couple of days, you can start seeing that with a little bit of work, you can get to 10 sales a day pretty easy. Now, again, $30 a sale, quite honestly, is a very low ticket price or low ticket dollar for a sale. And as you improve and ramp up your business and revamp what you're doing, you'll start getting more per sale on average. Your average cart value will go up, which makes the number of sales you need lower, and we'll talk again about that later. But point is, it's not that hard, right? It's like depending on where your mindset is, 100K is not a whole lot of money to generate in sales. It's totally doable. It's achievable. Now, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, Steve, but you just said your next line says it's really hard. And conceptually it's easy. In reality, you're right, it is hard in the sense that you have a lot to figure out as you're building this business, right? So you're trying to figure out the 0 to 100K is the hardest part of the business. It's figuring out what your market is. It's figuring out what product you're going to sell to that market. It's figuring out how you're going to market that product and what your funnel, your sales process looks like. And then you're working on that until you break even. Now, if you've done any kind of marketing at this point so far, if this is not your first rodeo, as they say here in Texas, then you know that the majority of your campaigns do not work out of the gate. It takes work and effort to get them there. So it's actually, it's harder from a time and investment standpoint in terms of effort. It's harder effort-wise to go from 0 to 100K than it is from 100K to $1 million, because once you can do and routinely make sales, then it's simply a process of upping your advertising to drive that revenue higher. Up until that point of that consistent sales at break even or better, that again is the hard part. And this is where most people give up, right? They get started, they get something working, or try to get something working, and it's not quite there, and they're like, oh, this just doesn't work, I just give up, it's not gonna happen, and they go try a new product in a new market and start all over again. And that is the hardest thing to do. because the learning curve is all at the beginning of the business, not that you're not learning throughout as you grow, but certainly the learning curve of what you need to sell, how you sell it, what you say to your market to get them to buy, the ads that you use, the sales pages, et cetera, is all the learning in this beginning part. So we'll talk a little bit. I got a slide here in a second of talking about choosing a market. You want to spend some time doing that, spend more time up front figuring out which market you want to be in so that you're not jumping from market to market and offer to offer and product to product trying to get this to work. Okay, so again, reiterating some of this, but 0 to 100K is really all about the marketing. Like, there's a lot of things that go on in business, but the focus here is all about the marketing. You can pretty much handle whatever you need to do activity-wise, getting to 100K a year. Like, if you're doing 10 sales a day, your customer service load is not going to be very high. It's going to be very easy to keep track of all that for everybody, and you will be able to handle that pretty much yourself. So the first and primary part or piece that you need to do is get that first sale, and then you need to continue working on that until you can get them regularly at break even, and then you just slowly scale it up, right? If you're doing 5-10 sales a day, okay, how do I do 15 or 20? Now you're doing 20, how do I do 30 sales a day? And that's how you continue to grow the business. So with that in mind, let me share a couple things that I have learned while you're building your businesses, and you can take this, and you can take it if you want or not, but as some people say, this is a write or downer, right? This is something you want to be aware of. The biggest factor, absolute biggest factor that's going to matter in how your business turns out and what you're working on is the model that you choose for the business. And I've got another slide here in a second talking about the business model, but that is going to be your biggest determination of whether it succeeds or fails, right? And as you're building, you want to scale slowly and steadily, because most business or marketers, they want to ramp it up ASAP. And as you can say, they think it's making money because, oh yeah, I'm selling for $50 and I'm paying $20, and there's a lot of other variables that go in there. And the problem is that if you don't have that number really worked out on the front end, then it becomes very difficult to scale in a way that will be profitable. So you have to know what those numbers are to start, and I'm going to show you how you figure all that out. But you want to scale slowly, because otherwise, if you don't, you can end up with a big mess. And that's what happened to us. We one of the actually Primal ended up about 400,000 upside down after about a year into it, because we thought we had our numbers right, but we didn't. And we said, scale it up. Let's go do more sales per day. And the only thing that you do when you scale a losing front end is lose more money faster, right? So we'll talk more about that. Okay, so here's a couple of model examples when I'm talking about business model, like what really matters. There's a couple things to keep in consideration. So like just straight sale. And what I mean by straight sale, I'm not talking about trial or straight sale. I'm talking about straight in the sense that all you're doing is selling a product. It's like selling a car. Somebody comes in, they sell a car. Somebody else comes in, they sell a car. And that is a pretty hard model to make work, right? Because think about car dealership. Like if you have a car or have ever owned a car, then you know that, or you may not know, but they don't make a lot of money on the sale of the car. What they make the money on is the upsells, the service packages, and then their ongoing service and maintenance. You know, their service department is where most of the money's made. And the car itself is just a way to get a customer so that they can do service, right? So you've got straight sales, which is kind of at the bottom of the food chain on business models. Then you have repeat sales, and repeat sales are obviously better. If you get a customer to buy one widget and you get them to buy two widgets or buy multiple widgets over and over again, that's better because now you're making multiple sales to a single customer. And then kind of up the level a little bit, you've got some recurring revenue. Obviously that is better than having to constantly ask for repeat sales. You get recurring where it just happens automatically. That is much better than a straight or repeat. And then you have also, and these aren't all, I put some of these in priority or order of importance and how good they are compared to the other, but they're not all that way. And what I mean by that is services. Like services is another business model that a lot of people don't think of. They think of like, hey, I'm selling a widget, I'm selling this item, but you can sell services too. And sometimes services may be a better model for your market depending on what they want, right? So services include in the internet space, email service providers, web hosting, things of that nature. Those are technically services because they're doing something for you, but they're a product, or they call a software as a service. It's a product geared as a service. So again, services are good because it's something that somebody needs on a regular basis, right? If somebody's buying they're buying a new toy and they need batteries for it. That is something that they buy, and they buy batteries when they need it, but it's not something they need all the time, as opposed to take a business, for example. We just used email as an example, or another business. We have a shredder in our office. They come and take our trash paper away, and they shred it because it's got sensitive information on it. So that would be a service that we're going to pay for over and over and over again, and the need for that service makes it a lot easier that the people don't have to sell us every month on it, I think is what I'm trying to get to. So services are something to consider, and they don't work for every market, and they don't work for every offer, but they do work for in some situations. And an ascension model is basically you start, it's the typical internet expert model where you come in on a $27 ebook, and then you buy the $297 package, and then everybody is together. They've got $297. Oh, they have a $997 package, and then $5,000 workshop and $25,000 mastermind, et cetera, et cetera. So there's, again, depending on the market and depending on where you're at, an ascension model may be a good model for you. Now, naturally, you want to try to ascend any customer in any market up the scale, but what that ladder looks like will depend. So again, the question here ultimately is what's working in the market right now. That's really the determining factor, is what's going on in the market. Is it working? Is it not working? By looking at what other people and other companies are doing, and that will give you a very good idea of where your business model needs to be. Because if everybody else is selling, a product into a combo version of that product into a continuity, then that's probably where I'd start, because that's what's currently working. You can always tweak and edit, but that's where I'd start. So. All right, let's talk about getting that first sale. So here's the things that really matter to get that first sale. You need to figure out the market that you're going to sell to. You need to figure out what product you're going to sell to that market, and then you're going to figure out the marketing that it's going to take to get that product selling to the market, right? And you have to work on that until it all breaks even. And what I mean by break even is if you spend $20 or $30 or $50 to acquire a customer, that you're making back that $20, $30, or $50 on that first sale, so it doesn't take any cash out of pocket to grow the business. Because if you're negative, then you have to put cash in until those customers are worth enough money to make up that lost cash. But that's a very advanced strategy that I definitely don't recommend starting out. So to get going, you really need one offer. When I say offer, whatever product you're selling to whatever market, one basically funnel offer and one traffic source. You don't need Facebook and Google and native advertising and email and all that to start. You need to start with one. And if Facebook's working or you feel comfortable there, then that's where I'd start. Okay, so figuring out a market, and this is, I learned this a long time ago, and once I started understanding it, it made marketing a lot easier, because what you're selling is not, you're selling a product, whether it's e-com or info, etc., but the product is not the market. And what I mean by that is a market is a group of people, which I've explained here. They've got a problem to solve. The more intense the problem, the better. And I say fanaticism can replace a problem. So fanaticism meaning like a fan, like somebody who is a super fanatical about X, whatever it is. MMA, they're fanatical about the Cowboys. They're fanatical about some kind of hobby. That can replace an actual problem. So they don't necessarily need a problem. but it needs to be something that they want to spend money to solve, whatever that issue is. And other things about the market, they're easy to define, they're easy to reach, and they've got money to spend. So let me give you, I gave you like the cheat sheet right there: health, wealth, love, and hobbies. Right? Those are kind of your big markets that you can work in. So dating, that's the love market. Health, supplement. There's so many things in the health market: weight loss, fitness, blood pressure, blood sugar, etc., etc. There's all sorts of stuff there. Wealth is all of the how to make money, real estate investing, internet marketing, financial newsletters, that just to name a few. So there's a lot of markets, and there's some things that you want to consider while you're looking at these markets. And so let me give you an example again of selling a product versus selling to a market. Let's take new moms, for example, right? Let me start with a product first. So let's say that you are selling, and this is just popping into my head because it's an example, but let's just say you're selling a baby bottle, right? So a baby bottle is just a product. Okay, well, if you're selling a baby bottle and you don't think beyond that, then you're not really looking at the market. With a little bit of thought, you obviously say, hey, who is the market? Who's buying this baby bottle? Because the thing is if you sell a baby bottle, then you're like, okay, great, I sold a baby bottle. Now what should I sell next, right? Well, maybe it's nipples for the baby bottle, right? Okay, well, that can work, but so could formula, right? But these are all based on the product itself. So now if you step back for a second and you say, who's actually buying this baby bottle? Well, wait a second, new moms, right? So new moms are buying this. If new moms are buying this, what kind of problems are new moms having? Well, sure, they need to feed their baby. That's one. And you just came up with a lot of ideas for the baby bottle. But what about other things? What about diaper services, right? Like somebody who buys a baby bottle, they have babies. Maybe they have, non-throwaway diapers and they need a diaper service. Maybe they're having a hard time sleeping at night and they need to figure out how to get their baby to sleep. Maybe the new baby has created relationship problems with their spouse or significant other and they're fighting all the time and they want to fix that. Maybe they can't sleep, not only because of the baby, but their own issues going on with themselves. So if you notice there, I just took like 3 or 4 or 5 different things that have nothing to do with a baby bottle, but all would be viable products to sell to a new mom. And that's the difference between a product and a market. So if you know what your market is, you know what their issues are, which allows you to find better products and better upsells and other offers that you can sell to them. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. So it really pays off at this point to give some thought and consideration to the business model, because what I have found that is if you scale the wrong model, as we talked about earlier, it can get really messy. And so you want to really think about, who's the market I'm selling to and what kind of business model do I want to sell to them. So again, there is no right or wrong answer. It's just you need to think through it at this point, because what most people do is like, hey, I just want to make money. I just want to sell something and I want to make sales. So they do that and then they find out, oh, wait, now I have to restart or go find a new offer or pick a new market because I didn't think through this in the beginning. So that's what I'm suggesting you do, right? And ultimately, being a marketer entrepreneur, it's about learning, growing, and getting better. And you definitely want to act, but you want to it's kind of like that balance, like put some thought into it and don't just do it without any thought, but don't sit there and overanalyze this to the nth degree. You got to act and then get moving and improving along the way. Okay, so figuring out the product, right? So we figured out the market. Going back here for just a second, remember it's these criteria up here at the top. Money to spend, easy to reach. And let me talk about that. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. But money easy to reach means you can get to them, right? You can access them easily. They're easy to define. Like new moms is easy to define, right? So those things will help you figure that out. All right, so we've picked our market and we need to find a product now, right? So don't reinvent the wheel. You got to sell what's selling, especially starting out, because it's not about the product. Yes, the product matters, but having a new product or spending all the time and effort to make a new product that doesn't exist is not the way to go. You want to take something that's already selling, or a version or a variation of what's already selling, and you want to pick that product. And again, you got to remember what your business model is, right? Because if your business model is ultimately to get them into continuity and to upsell them to higher ticket items, then that's not what you want to sell on the front. What you want to sell on the front is something cheap, right? You want a cheap, something simple that will be easy to acquire a customer with, but then positions them to buy your other things. So again, advertising's everywhere, online and off. You just need to look and see. Like, you can look at your ads on Facebook, you can look at your ads on Google and websites, you can look at magazines in the bookstore is a great way to do market research. Go to the bookstore, pick up a magazine. If there's a magazine on it, there's a market, because people will not spend, like magazine, the model is they create content for a market that then people are willing to advertise to. So magazines are a great way to do market research, and sometimes it's a better way because you're getting offline and seeing some of the things that are selling that aren't selling online. So that's a way to do it as well, right? Again, don't make something up, sell something that's selling. And drop shipping is a great place to start. And I emphasize start, and I'm going to talk about that more a little bit later, but it's a great way, low risk way to get started. So, all right, now the marketing, right? So we've got our market, we've got our product, and now we have the marketing, right? Again, I mentioned this earlier, nothing works the first time. Nothing works out of the gate. I've done this for 15 years plus. It always takes time, effort, and energy to get a new offer going. That means money and tweaking and time to get it. So troubleshoot your funnel right from the beginning to the end. You've got your ad, your lander, your checkout, and your upsells. You don't want to, if you can't get people clicking on your ad, then it doesn't really matter what your checkout's doing, because you're not going to get enough people through. So you got to put an ad out there that gets clicks. Okay, if it gets clicks on the ad, and once they get to the lander, are they clicking on your checkout button? If they're not clicking on your checkout button, something's off, right? So you figure that out, and then you get them to the checkout. Well, now that they're on the checkout, are they converting? Well, if they're converting at 10%, then maybe you need to work and see why they aren't converting at 30 or 40%, right? So, and then you work on your upsells from there, because the amount of traffic and the amount of volume decreases through that funnel, right? And I think you probably understand most of this, but I'm just using it as an example here. So the whole purpose with your marketing and with your funnel is to get a customer. Remember back in the very beginning, we talked about the basics of business, of going to acquire a customer and selling them more and more stuff. That's the key here. So we're not selling stuff to make a profit. We're selling stuff to build a customer list that we can sell more things to. So again, it's a long-term versus short-term view. A lot of people, when they get started in e-com, get started in info marketing, whatever it is they're doing, they're like, oh, I've got to make money on this sale. Well, you definitely don't want to lose money, but you don't have to make money, because in fact, making money on the sale up front is actually a hindrance to you, because it doesn't force you to build out the rest of the business. And I got an example here of candle wicks and guitar picks, right? So going back to markets, right? Like, who's going to buy a guitar pick? Well, if somebody buys a guitar pick, they clearly play guitar. Now, they may be needing a guitar pick at the time, but don't you think later they might need some strings, or maybe they might want to buy a new guitar, or maybe they buy sheet music, or who knows what. But you have that customer that you can then sell more things to. So you're not going to make money selling a bazillion guitar picks. It's just the metrics don't work. But guitar picks are a great way to get guitar owners. Same thing with candle wicks, right? Candle wicks are for people that make candles and all, it's an example I heard from Perry Belcher years ago. Both of those actually, candle wicks and guitar picks, which is, the candle wicks are a nothing item, but somebody that buys candle wicks is clearly buying because they make candles, right? So if that's the case, you could give candle wicks away just to get the customer name, so that you can sell them more stuff. So hopefully that's clear on what I'm saying there, right? So when you can dependably, and the key word is dependably and repeatedly, turn your advertising into new customers at break even or better, you have a business. That's when you've got a business. When you can acquire customers at break even or better, you've got a business. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about numbers. I don't want to get into too much detail here, but the key and the concept is you need to know your numbers, and you can backwards engineer them ultimately is what I'm getting to here, right? So CTR, click-through rate, drives your CPC. So the higher your click-through rate, the lower your cost per click. Cost per click and CR, which is conversion rate, drives your CPA. The better it converts, the lower your CPA. The lower your cost per click, the lower the CPA. The worse it converts, higher CPA. The higher CPC, higher CPA, etc. So those are things you need to know because you can work on tweaking those to get better results. Your net cart value, which I'm going to refer to, is basically the price of your product minus your cost of goods, which is, if you have a physical product, what does it cost to buy that, ship it, etc., and get it to the customer? Your merchant fees, don't forget about those, and your refunds. So that is kind of your basic formula for figuring out gross profit, in essence, of a sale. So let's look at, $30 product has a 10% refund rate, 3% merchant fees, and a cost of $15, has a cart value of $30 that you sell it for, minus $15 in hard costs, minus $3, which is 10% of 30 for refunds, minus 90 cents, which is 3% of $30 for merchant fees, which leaves you $11.10, right? So your $30 product really is only making you $11.10 by the time it's all done. Now, those numbers will change, but the purpose here is to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So the numbers change, but ultimately, if it's $11.10, you cannot afford to make or to spend more money than $11.10, or you'll be losing money, right? So your CPA's got to be equal to or lower than your cart value, or you've got a major problem if you want to scale. Like I was saying earlier, you're then having to put money into the business to acquire customers, which is not where you want to be. So it's most likely not going to work out of the gate, right? I just said that earlier, you're going to launch a new product, it's not going to work, so what do? All right, so here's how we optimize the marketing, right? Again, backing up, taking a step back, we're kind of in the weeds now about marketing and products and how to get it working, but ultimately we're doing this because this is getting us from 0 to 100,000, right? So a couple things you can do. You can improve your ads, improve your landers, improve your cart value. Those are all very standard, simple things. So let's talk about each of those. So ads, right? Again, the beauty of marketing and direct response and any business is that you don't have to create it and invent it on your own. It's already out there and being done. In fact, if somebody's not doing it, that's probably a reason. It either doesn't work or doesn't make money. Not always, but most of the time. So you want to see what works and model that, right? Ads run for a long time because they work. If somebody's spending money on an ad and it's running over a long period of time, they're either stupid or it's making money, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So you want to take ads from other markets too, not just yours, but other markets. What I mean by that is if you're in the, you're selling e-com products to who knows what, gardeners, for example. You could use health ads that pop up on Native or Google or wherever and model those and the ad copy to test for your other products. There's a lot of ways. So it's basically the ad copy and the look of the ad, etc., that you can model to test for yourself, right? So your job ultimately here when you're working on this is to find an ad that gets steady clicks so you can optimize the conversion in the funnel. Doesn't have to be the best ad. It just needs to get steady clicks so you can start testing your offer, testing the CPA, testing the conversion so you can figure out where your CPA is at and adjust it. So remember, the more consistent the ad is to the lander, the better it converts, right? So what I mean by that is if you've got an ad that says free sex, it's going to get tons of clicks, but it won't convert because whatever's on the lander is not going to be free sex. So that is the best example I have of your consistency between ad and lander. So ultimately what you're trying to do is when I say the next point of convey that there's something to sell while maintaining curiosity, what I mean by that is if you say buy my widget, that's a very direct ad. If you like X widgets, then whatever it is. If you like gardening gloves, then you're gonna love our new glove. That's basically, hey, I've got something to sell you, right? Versus an ad that says something like new gardening glove takes the world by storm. find out the details here or something. That would be like an article or an advertorial that talks about gardening gloves, and then you could link them to the offer. And I don't know if that's clear as I'm explaining it, but basically there's a difference. One is saying, hey, buy this now. The other is saying, hey, there's a story here about gardening gloves, which is still about something. It's not just, they still know that there's, an item there. And so you're connecting it. And again, if you have questions on this, I can clarify that later, but let me know if that's not clear on what I'm saying. So ultimately, you're competing on click-through rate with all the other ads. So the better your click-through rate, the less you're going to pay per click, and that's going to drive kind of your whole funnel. The key here is if you don't have, if you're too far on the curiosity clicky side, then you're not going to have as good a conversion, right? So you could have a super clicky ad, but doesn't convert as well as a less clicky ad, right? So you may end up paying a higher cost per click and get a better conversion that makes the metrics work overall. So you just got to test. But what I'm telling you is that in the ad space, the network, the advertising space, you're competing on click-through rate. And you're going to have a hard time scaling if your ads don't kind of meet a certain click-through rate minimum based on the network. They have numbers to figure out where you need to be to actually to show the ads. And again, if that's not clear, I can clarify that again with questions later. So obviously constantly split testing. So all right, next, that was your ads, your landers. You want to test everything. You want to test your price, your layout, your copy, your images, etc., like everything. You need to test it all. You should always be running a split test. Because your page will not get better on its own. And I would test, different variations. Like, you want to send traffic direct to a sales page, or do you want to send it to a pre-sale or advertorial to warm them up a little bit? You can do both. There's in e-com and information, etc. In our current survival business, we use an advertorial pre-sale before they go to the offer page, and that actually works better than sending them direct to the offer. So again, see what other landers are being used in your market and use that as a guideline on what you can borrow and test, right? You don't want to steal somebody's lander. That's not cool. There's a lot of creativity and work and effort that goes into making a lander work, so don't go rip it off. But you can borrow the concepts and the ideas that make that lander work, and build your own off of it. And you got to iterate. That's the name of the game. So now that we talked about those two, here's kind of the other part of the equation that's super important. It's your cart values. And when I mean the cart value, I mean your average order value that happens when somebody buys from you. So you want to improve that, because the more money you generate on each sale means the more you can spend in advertising to acquire that sale. And on small volumes, you can have a bigger delta there. If you're doing, I don't know, if you're on Facebook and you're making sales at, I don't know, $5 or $10 or $15, can you do that? Absolutely. But I think you'll find that as you scale, and definitely outside of Facebook, as you scale, your CPAs go up, because you're putting your ad out across more traffic that doesn't quite convert as well. So when you're super targeted, you can make a spread, but as you get to drive more volume and lots of volume, then you will need to have a higher cart value so you can afford to pay more on a CPA basis, or on an acquisition to acquire the customer. So you want to take advantage of the fact that they're spending money, right? So if you don't have an upsell or a downsell or any of that, you definitely need those. You want to price test your main offers, right? You want to test the price. You want to test the pricing on the upsells. You also want to take into consideration the price and the conversion rate. And what I mean by that is that you could have a $19 product that you raise to $39, but if you lose, or it converts, let's just do it this way. If you make a $19 product and it converts at whatever that conversion rate is, we'll just call it conversion rate X, and then you raise it to $39, you're now making $20 more per sale, but it's twice as expensive. So if it converts anything worse than half as good, then you've moved backwards, if that makes sense. So it's just a little math, right? Like if you multiply 1/3 times $40, $39, that tells you basically how much you actually get from the sale compared to your 100% at $20, right? Because you have your conversion, you're comparing conversions. Again, if that's not making sense as I'm explaining it, I can do a little written explanation to help. Okay, so test the order of the upsells. Which upsell comes first? Maybe it works better as a second upsell, and there's a better first upsell. So everything in that funnel can be tested and tweaked to find your optimal. And what you want to do, again, a little bit more math. If you multiply your upsell rate by the price, then you can see the contribution to cart value. So let's say you have an upsell that is $50. You're selling your first product at $19, and then you have an upsell that's $50, but you only take only 10% of people take the upsell. Well, you're not getting $50 to the cart, you're getting $50 times 10%, which is $5 to the cart, averaged out. It's $5 extra to the cart value. Again, make sure that you take into consideration your cost of goods, because you need the net cart value contribution. Ultimately, you're trying to get to the funnel that gives you the highest net cart value that will allow you to pay a higher CPA and either break even or make a little bit of money in the process. Because once you do that, again, you've got a business, and then it's about, well, how do I get these customers to buy more stuff, right? Again, I've probably like drinking from a fire hose on this one. I've been just going pretty quick through it because it's all kind of second nature to me. If any of this is unclear, let me know. We'll clear it up, okay? All right, so finally, like here's the thing. Like ultimately, you can talk about this all day long, but you've got to get going and you've got to start. You got to do something. And you're going to make, like I said, you're not going to make money right away. It's going to take time to figure it out, but you're investing in an asset that when you get it right is going to pay you back 1,000 times over. It really, truly is. So look at it that way. It's like, look, if I put money in, let's put $1,000 in, 2,000, whatever it takes. I was in the beginning trying to remember how many thousands of dollars I spent on courses and everything to get to the point of where I actually was making sales. And it's like, it's frustrating when you think about it, because it's thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. But then once I figured it out, it all paid itself back many, many times over. So that's how you need to look at it, not just from an education standpoint, but from what you're putting in to actually get the funnel working. That's important. Okay, so let's move on now. All right, we've just covered 100,000, 0 to 100,000. So now here's where we're going, right? It's about going from 100,000. How do we get 100K up to $1 million a year, right? 100K a year to $1 million a year. And what that's about is getting some systems in place around the sales, right? 0 to 100K was about getting the marketing to work. What market do I want? What product? How do I sell it? What do I say? What ads? What landers, etc. 100K to $1 million now is taking what works and starting to scale that up. So again, on the low side, you're probably making 10% net. And on the high side, maybe 25%, depending on what you're selling, depending on how much overhead you have. So 100K a year is only going to make you between 10 and 25K, which isn't a lot of money. A full-time income, I'm calling it 50,000. I don't think that's really a great income, but let's just say it's 50,000. You need between 200 and 500K in revenue, right? Yeah. If you're making 25%, you need 200K. That's 50,000. 25% of 200K is 50,000. Or if you're making 10%, you need 500,000, because 10% of 500 is 50, right? So most likely it's going to be closer to 500K, which is kind of this million range we're talking about. So getting to $1 million is really about doing the same thing you did to get to 100K. It's just doing more of it, and plus adding some really important components into that process, which we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so a little bit more math for you here. Remember, $30 times 10 sales a day times 365 days a year is $109,500. So if we do $30 a sale times 100 sales times 365, you get $1,095,000. Or You could do $50 a sale times 60 sales a day times 365, or 75 times 40, or $100 a sale times 30. You get the idea, right? That's again $1 million gross sales. So you're working to increase in this process both your number of sales and the amount you're making per sale. Remember the cart value, we talked about optimizing that. You're always working to push that up. You always want to, that's like the constant marketing work, is how do you make it convert better? How do you make it get the cart value higher on every sale? So what's new at this point, right? Up to 100K, you're probably drop shipping and you're handling customer support yourself along the way with any finances, if you even keeping track of all that. That's pretty typical, pretty normal, nothing wrong with that. That's a pretty standard process. But as you grow and you get more sales, you're going to need to do the following. You're going to need to keep obviously focused on driving the front end traffic and converting it. That's a marketing and advertising focused job. You're going to start making back end efforts to the customers, back end offers, to the customers, such as email promotions, new products, etc., etc. Also a marketing task. Then you got to make sure as you start doing this more volume, that the product gets to the customers, right? Now, and we'll talk about that and say that's the fulfillment. So what I'm doing here is breaking down the pieces of the business that have to happen to make it all work. You got to support those customers with phones and email, customer service. You got to keep track of your sales, refunds, cost, profits, and cash flow, which is a financial thing. You have to manage your bank accounts, merchant accounts, chargebacks, etc., also finance. And if you're selling supplements, you have to be aware of the FDA, FTC, and regulatory. So then, in addition to all that, you or somebody has to start working on your business and not in it. And what I mean by on it, meaning putting it together in a way that makes all these pieces work and creating a plan and strategy to grow, and that's being the CEO. So now you've got, again, at 100K, you're doing everything because there's not a whole lot of volume. But as you start doing more volume, more business, these tasks need to start getting split out. So here's the challenge, right? You're a single person with limited time, so where is your time best spent? Because you can't do all of this. Not only can you not do it all, you're probably not ideally suited to do it all. So how do you address that? Well, my suggestion is you spend 90% of your time in marketing and 10% as CEO working on the business. At this point, from 100K to $1 million. As the business grows, you're going to shift that to where you spend most of your time working on the business and not in the business. Now, that's assuming that that's enjoyable and fun for you. If you really, really like marketing and you want to stay in marketing, then you can totally do that. You just have to have somebody that's working on the business. So you got to keep working on the front end, right? We talked about marketing focus. You've got to keep growing your front end units, and you have to keep coming up with new products and stuff. More funnel testing to improve the net cart value, so you can afford more traffic, and you have to start exploring new traffic channels to get the offer working on those channels, right? Misspelled there, sorry. On the channels, not no channels. If you start an FB, what about Google? What about native? What about affiliate networks, etc., email, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of places you can take that to, and you want to start expanding that out. And again, always funnel testing. So your whole business here hinges on your CPA being less than your net cart value right now. You still need to make sure you're breaking even or better on the front end. You don't have the sophistication at this point to play the CPA less than LTV, which is lifetime value game. I've seen so many guys. There was a company in our market that spent tons of money on advertising. In fact, as I record this, there was one just recently that went out of business in the health space that spent tons of money on advertising because they're like, oh yeah, we'll just make it up, and they didn't pay attention to it, and they didn't make it up, and they went out of business. So you got to be very careful. You got to know your numbers and be aware of that. And as a marketer, you need to know the numbers. Sometimes you put them together. Sometimes you get them put together for you, but you need to know what they are so you can make good decisions. So again, second thing on that list was more offers, right? More offers equals more profit, which is also marketing. So once you've got a customer, you need to monetize them further. The simplest way, send an email offers, affiliate offers to your email list. That is the simplest way to do that. It's a quick cash, but it's also a short-term solution because the more you promote to the list, the less likely they stay on. And then you're constantly having to put new people on the list. You can also rent out your list, which is another way to monetize that asset. But the better answer, and not that, I mean, we definitely mail our list frequently, but the better answer is to develop additional products and offers that your customers are going to want to buy. Remember earlier we had the discussion about what market you focus on? This is why we asked that question earlier, because now, as I used the baby bottle example earlier, now you have an ability to start saying, what else can I sell? And if you did your kind of homework up front, you had an idea of what other products could be before you sold your first product. So again, lots of options, but something to consider. If you're selling physical, what about digital? If you're selling digital, what about physical, right? There's a lot of ways to approach that. You don't have to stay in only one or the other. And this is kind of it's not really a sneaky trick, but one that we've used before is how many other lists are you on? It's really, when I say list, I mean other competitor lists, other product lists. Like if you've got competition in your market, go buy their stuff, get on their list and see what they're selling, see what they're promoting, see what they're offering, and see how they're doing it, because it's great insight for you on what you could be doing to do the same for your customers, right? So even if you had to spend money to go buy their product and go through their upsell sequence, that's the other thing. You can buy their product, see what they're doing. It's money well spent. It's great competitive intelligence. So here's the thing. When you're good at marketing, you generate customers. But what's kind of funny is customers like to be happy, right? They like to have their products. They like to get them on time. They like not to be upset about stuff. They like people to talk to on the phone. So if you're running digital products, you don't really have a major issue, right? You still got to get them access to their product, but you don't have a shipping challenge or a shipping issue, right? So the downside of that, though, is that if you're running digital, you are missing out on a huge opportunity to build a physical list that you can then send direct mail to, which is more marketing and more offers, etc. So drop shipping, when I say drop shipping, I mean product and shipping is a great way to start. You know, like however they're doing it these days, whether it's AliExpress or whatever the strategy is, you're usually selling from somebody who has that product and that shipping already put together. And that works, like I said earlier, to start, because when you're starting, all you're trying to do is proof of concept, right? You want to see if you can sell the stuff and you want to make continuous sales. The last thing you want to do as a new business just starting out is get into a ton of inventory that you can't sell. So that dropshipping is a good way to start. But at this point, somewhere in this 100,000 to a million range, you want to start shifting some of your resources into buying your own profit, right? Buying your own inventory, because you're paying a premium both as a cost of good and in shipping to have the right, so to say, to not have to buy your inventory, to do it in a dropship manner. So that means your margins are smaller, which means that you're not making as much per sale, which means you can't pay as much, which means it constricts the growth of your business. So at this point, you want to start investing in inventory and find a way to ship that through a fulfillment center or whatever to your customer. This also creates an opportunity here for you to differentiate, right? Because now that you've got a product type that's selling and you know what you're wanting to do, it starts making sense at this point to come up with your own version so that it's not the same product that everybody else is selling, right? So ideally, you want a fulfillment company here that helps you and understands online marketing and it's willing to work with you to kind of iron out the kinks as you grow, because there is a process here. It's not all plug and play, right? Like I said before, you're solving problems as you go and figuring out, and your version of your business is going to be different than somebody else's version of their business. It's all kind of unique. Even though it's similar, you're going to have your own unique problems to sort through, and you need somebody to help you through that process, ideally, is what you want. And obviously, if you're selling supplements, then they need to be FDA registered, because there are a lot of things that go into the supplement side that requires regulatory and compliance. So here's the next thing, right? Customers, not only do they want their product, but they actually want to get supported as well. Like, you can't just sell products and ignore your customers. So when you're only doing 5 to 10 sales a day, you can handle most of that customer support yourself, it's probably email. Most likely, if you're like most marketers, you're not going to want to pick up the phone and talk to your customers, right? That's a pain in the butt. Who wants to do that? But here's the thing. If you're not answering your phone, you're missing out on a huge opportunity, both in two ways. One, in additional sales, because sometimes people just want to talk to somebody. And if you're just selling online, then you're missing out on that ability to actually pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. Jones, glad you called. How can we help you? Answer some questions, because what happens is online or on a sales letter or whatever, however you're selling your product, direct mail, if they can't ask questions, then they're going to default to say no, which means they're not going to buy. However, if you get them on the phone and the ability to talk with them, they can say, hey, I was wondering, I was looking at your product, but I thought about this, and what about these things? And then somebody can say, oh, don't worry about that. That's not an issue. People ask that all the time. And this is what goes on. So you can answer that question, but here's the other part, right? Is you get the opportunity to get customer insight, both in terms of what they're thinking and what they're reacting to, so you can optimize your funnel, right? So because like I just said, they call in, if you get 50% of your calls asking a certain question, well, clearly that needs to be addressed on your sales material so that they don't ask that question, right? So you're going to bump sales. If you're making any kind of sales, you're going to get more just by putting a phone number on your form, right? So helping customers get speedy service and refunds mitigates chargeback issues, which if you're getting started, you probably don't know a lot, but chargebacks are the bane of any e-commerce or online marketer's existence. If you get your chargebacks out of whack, then you are not going to have a business. So additionally, a few other things there. You get the opportunity with phone to cross-sell. Oh, hey, I saw you looking at our X widget. Have you thought about our Y widget? A lot of our customers buy both together. Can we add that to your order today? That's going to bump your cart values and get you more sales in the process. So again, it is very, very important. Most marketers don't want to do this because, again, it's work. It's a little more thing to look after, but it's totally going to pay for itself, and it's easy to outsource for a pretty low cost, right? So again, with the Fulfillment Center, you want a call center that gets internet marketing, online marketing, e-com, etc., and can help you navigate through that process. Okay, so fulfillment customer service. Now, here's, bean counters, right? That's the term that people call accountants and finance people is bean counters, because they're keeping up with everything. Accounting normally in most businesses is an afterthought. And what I mean by that is, it's like in most businesses, offline business, what they do is they do all their business, and then at the end of the day, they calculate it all up, and they say, okay, well, here's where our sales, and here's where our costs, and here's where our profit was, right? That is a very simple way to do it, and not the optimal way, because you're missing out. Any business is missing out on a huge amount of insight and information on how their business is run by not integrating finance into that process. So internet marketing is even more important, particularly because of that dynamic between your ad spend and your cost of goods and all of the other expenses going on with acquiring a customer. And you need that feedback, right? You need that feedback sooner so you can make better decisions, because like I mentioned earlier, if you get it wrong, you end up $400,000 in the hole like I did. Now, we got out of it and it all ended up being okay, but it can go very badly if you don't know your numbers. So the faster you move sales, right, the more volume you do, the faster you need updated numbers, because you're basing yourself, like you pick your CPA and your cost of goods, right? And your CPA and your cart value, and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend $50 to acquire a customer because I know they're worth $55 on average for the first sale. And you've got a $5 buffer. Great. So you start doing that. Well, things change. Maybe something's broken in your cart. Maybe something just isn't working the way it used to. Variables happen. And if you're not getting that, update from your finance people, then you could end up at the end of the month where your cart value was $45 and you were paying $50, and now you're $5 upside down instead of $5 ahead. So I'm just trying to enforce and reiterate that it's very important that you have the numbers together so you can understand, and that's really going to allow you to grow. Because if you don't know what the numbers are, both financially and your metrics, it's going to be hard for you to push, right? So, and I mentioned before, just optimizing the business. Having a financial statement, you can look at it and see what is working and what's not working, and start working on each line item, for example, right? So let's look at if you've never looked at it, if you have ever looked at a financial statement, you've got gross sales at the top, you got your cost of goods, which includes whatever, your actual physical cost, merchant fees, shipping, et cetera, which leaves you a gross profit, and then you take off your overheads out of that, right? So by looking at everything on a line item basis, you can start saying, oh, look, my costs are really high. So how do I drop my product cost? Oh, well, if I go buy more product, I can get my product cost down by 25%. Well, then you'll make more money, right? So then you can make a business decision about how you want to approach that. Let's see, what else we got here? The other part is that as you grow, you are going to suck cash. I mean, growth sucks cash. That is a huge fact because you're putting more money in so many areas. You're putting it in inventory, you're putting it in people and resources, etc. And it is possible, believe it or not, to make a profit on your statement, financial statement, and still go out of business because you're out of cash, right? And even worse than that, like I said, you can actually grow yourself out of business. So all of this, I know some of this is probably, if you're new, is like, how is that even possible? It would require, I'm again happy to answer that in a more specific training, but just trust me with the fact that you need to be paying attention to your cash and your cash flow so that you don't run out of money, right? And then finally, also on the financial side, if you're starting to get bigger and you want to start working with banks to help either finance inventory or do some other things, that you need a set of financial statements that are regularly updated and look like they're put together by somebody that knows what they're doing. Otherwise, the banks will not want to talk with you because it's basically the language of the business world. So again, more finance stuff. This is kind of a separate section. That first section was just like your normal business finances. Now this is merchant accounts, chargebacks, etc. So internet marketing and e-com all runs on merchant accounts. No card processing. If you can't process credit cards, you cannot run your business, and that is a huge problem. So you got to make sure that your merchant accounts work. And part of the problem of getting on the wrong side of merchant accounts is your chargeback. So you need to keep on top of those, and if you don't do it, they will kill you, right? So as in everything, you don't want one merchant account. You want to have multiple merchant accounts so you can spread your risk, because believe me, if it hasn't happened to you, at some point you will get turned off. Somebody in the underwriting will say something. They will see something, they will notice something, and they will say, oh, we don't like this, turn them off. And you will be basically up shit creek without a paddle. So you want to make sure that you have multiple merchant accounts to handle that, right? Which also means that if you have multiple accounts, you need to manage them. So now what I'm trying to help you understand here is that as you're growing, there's more stuff to be done to get the business to run like it's supposed to. And that requires more people and expertise. So again, manage your merchant accounts, because once you're blacklisted, if you get your chargebacks too high, you don't address it, you don't fix it, and the merchant account turns you off, they put you on a blacklist, you personally will not get another merchant account for a very long time, if ever. So that is it's kind of like the death knell for online marketing. So you don't want to do that. So Stripe and Braintree, two popular ones. Those are great ways to start. PayPal also, although I don't prefer, I do Stripe or Braintree for e-com stuff. But the problem is that you're going to, and you can use them as you scale, but as you get bigger, you're going to want a plan for what you're going to do for your volume, right? And again, same reason. There's some other specifics that we can get into, which I could do a whole presentation on merchant accounts. But Stripe and Braintree are not true merchant accounts; they're aggregators, which means that you're not underwritten, that just means a lot of things that are not optimal, is my point. So if you're starting out, you're doing 100K to $1 million a year, probably not a big deal, but as you get up there, 100K plus, you want to start planning, how am I going to scale this so that I don't get screwed, basically. Okay, so Again, a little piece here on supplements, right? So FDA and regulatory are a huge piece of the supplement business, and you need to make sure that they're covered. So if you're not selling supplements, don't even worry. You can skip this whole section. If you are, then you're going to need to make sure that you're addressing your formulation, your labeling, your claims and marketing copy, your warehousing and your returns, adverse events, call center oversight, meaning people can't be saying, oh yeah, we cure cancer or cure anything for that matter, and your product testing. These are all regulatory based items that do need attention. So again, I could do a whole training on regulatory alone, but if you need any help here or think you might, reach out and I can point you in the right direction. Okay, so kind of summing up here, 1 million is really like 1 to 5 million. And what I mean by it's really 1 to 5 million is really depends on your business model. What I'm saying by that, like if you have recurring revenue and higher ticket cart values and back-end products, etc., you can drive that number up with less total sales. So, you know, ultimately it's not a hard cutoff. Like this isn't 0 to 100K, 100K to 1 million. It's basically 100K to 1 million plus, could be 5, depending on it. And ultimately the driver, as I've mentioned here, is the complexity. And the complexity comes from people and systems, not from revenue, right? Because you could do a lot of revenue. Like imagine this, you had one client that pays you 5 million a year. Well, there's not a lot of complexity to that. Like if all you did was provide your expertise to that one client and you didn't have to do anything, there's no complexity and you don't need a team, and so therefore it's not complicated, right? So that's where the revenue is a little off. It's really by complexity more so than revenue, but the revenue is a good guideline because that's what most people can understand. So if you're focused on 90% on marketing and 10% on what I call CEOing, then you can build a nice profitable business in this, 1 to 5 million area. The caveat here is that you can never really take a break from it, and it's a lot of work because you're doing everything. Even if you're outsourcing it all, right? You're still hustling, is my point. And you can build a profitable business and make a nice income, but you're going to be the one doing the work. Now, if you like that and that makes you happy, by all means. But you technically, own a business, but you can't actually sell it, probably, most likely not, because unless you're selling you and your expertise. So it's really like a high paid self-employed job, right? So you can work wherever you want, but if you don't stop hustling, then you are kind of screwed. So something to throw out here, and we're getting a little bit more complicated now because we scaled up from, we figured out how to sell our stuff to 100K. We took that from 100K to a million, 2 million, 5 million, whatever that range is. And now our complexity is increasing, and we want to start getting a little bit higher and drive the business bigger. But we need to talk a bit about some things to consider here. And the first one is fixed cost versus variable cost. And just bear with me here. Some of this is accounting stuff, but I want to explain it so you understand. And that is, fixed costs occur every month, right? Regardless of whether you have sales or not. So if you've got a building that you're renting on a lease, that's a fixed cost, right? Rent, like you said, rent, building, insurance, anything that comes, whether you use it or not, is a fixed cost. Now, variable costs vary, obviously, with output and sales, meaning if you sell more, then you're going to have more cost associated with it. If you sell less, you have less cost, right? So cost of goods are variable because your total cost of goods is going to depend on how much you sell. Your materials, okay? Labor, though, is where I'm saying it's a little bit different with labor, because as you scale up a business, depending on the business, and particularly our businesses, they don't scale up and down labor-wise easily. What I mean by that is if you go hire a team of people to run to do call center work for you, or to be on your marketing team for that matter, and you drop your sales, you're not necessarily going to just go fire them all because you don't have sales anymore. Now, if you don't have any sales and it's bleak, dire picture, for sure, you're going to get rid of them. But if you are having challenges with the marketing, it goes up, it goes down, as all marketing campaigns do, it's not like you're going to hire a good expert in marketing on your team and then fire him the next month and hire him back. So you're going to have this level of additional cost associated with your key employees, meaning you're going to invest in them and they're going to be there unless the business literally just goes, to hell in a handbasket and disappears. So that means your costs are going to go up. And that's what I'm saying here is that marketing campaigns fatigue. They break, things happen, you get kicked off advertising channels, you get your merchant account cut off, who knows what's going to happen, right? And so you still have these costs associated with your people, and therefore you have to be careful, because no revenue or lower revenue when you've increased your fixed costs, your bills, your labor, your rent, your building, etc., it's an ugly picture, right? And we've had something similar happen to ourselves where we scaled up and then we lost our advertising channels, and we had to scale back down, and it's a lot easier to scale up than it is to scale down. So just some input there to help you keep that in mind as you move forward. So now here's where you sort of telling you all this, because you've got a choice basically. 0 to 1, 5 million, whatever we're calling it here, depending on your model, can run with pretty much outsourced everything. Outsource the call center, outsource the fulfillment center, outsource your finance, outsource everything except for the marketing, and you run the marketing because that's your expertise. But once you reach that level, you've got to decide what kind of business that you're going to build, right? Because if you want to go to 10 million, you totally can, but you need to make a strategic decision. And do you want to focus strictly on the marketing side of the business and let someone else handle the quote business side, or do you want to invest in the assets, the people, the offices, the insurance, the managers, etc., right? Because you hire people, and after you get a certain number of people, you need managers to take care of them. And you're going to see in my next slides here how that complexity builds out. So you got a decision to make. Do you want to do that, or do you not want to do that? And if you do, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. You can build a $10 million plus business just focusing on the marketing and building the marketing team, and you can make plenty of profit doing that. If you build it correctly, you could probably even sell that business, but you would be missing out on multiples. What I mean by multiples of value due to the lower profit. So the trade-off here is kind of risk-based. Do you want to assume more risk for more profit, or do you want to let others assume the risk and you only pay when you use the service? Again, no right or wrong answer, but it's a strategic decision on how you move forward. You certainly have more risk when you invest in the infrastructure. So here's some scaling mistakes that we made, right? I talked about this a little bit earlier, but most marketers are like, oh, look, it's working, scale it up, right? Let's spend as much as we can. And if you keep your fixed costs low, outsource everything, and just pay for what you use, then you can do that without issue. Like if you don't have any fixed costs and you don't have to worry about what happens if the sales go away, then you can scale something as fast as you want to, because if it breaks or it goes away, you're not left holding the bag on all the expenses. But the upscale and the upscale downscale in that scenario doesn't really affect you, right? You pay just more or less depending on what you use. But if you decide to build it in house, again, strategic decision, you've got something to consider, because if you lose half your revenue, it can get pretty nasty, right? Right. So some more mistakes. Like here's some things that we didn't do specific in that example. Like we didn't do that calculation of how much revenue do we really need to keep this machine running. So we kept scaling up in Primal, up and up and up and up. We went to 30 million in 16, and if we had kept on going, we probably would have done 70 million the next year, but we lost the advertising. And so what had happened was we had scaled up. We had the expenses of a $50 million company, and we had revenues of 20 million, which is not a good picture, right? So we had to downscale, but that downscale was hard. And so what we should have done, and this is why I was talking about it earlier, is like let's figure out that LTV of the customer and how to maximize that LTV so that as you scale it up, you're making more money as you go, as opposed to scaling it up and then saying, oh crap, now how do I make more money from these customers? It's not quite the same thing, right? What we did initially with Primal was scale up what I would call an affiliate promotion, because it was mostly front end. There wasn't a whole lot of back end to it. We had recurring, we did have recurring, we had that piece, which totally, if we didn't have that, we would have been completely out of business. But even with the recurring, it wasn't as optimized as it could have been. And again, I talked about that trial supplement company. We had the very same situation. We scaled it up 0 to 20 million in 1 year, and it crashed. Boom, gone. Because we scaled too fast and didn't have the infrastructure and the back end marketing and the back end promotions to drive that lifetime value. So if you scale, ultimately the message here is if you scale too fast, you can't keep up with all the issues that scale creates. So you want to scale slowly and deliberately, and make sure you fix your issues before you continue scaling. That's going to be a little bit more methodical. Now, if you just like the craziness and you want to go, Mach 20, then go for it. There's not saying it's a wrong choice. Just having done it, I wouldn't recommend that. I would be more methodical about it. It doesn't mean that you can't still grow, but there's a difference between let's get as much business as we can and let's scale to what makes sense at this point before we evaluate where we're at and scale further. Okay, so here's a philosophical question for you, right? And you really do need to give this some thought and give it some consideration and think about it in relation to your own business in terms of where you stand, because what you say and how you answer this question is going to determine what you do moving forward. So here's the question. Would you rather make $1 million a year that you have to work 80 hours a week for, or would you rather make $100K a year that you never have to work for, right? And I set that up deliberately with the juxtaposition between the two, because I'm trying to get you, again, to think about the philosophical or strategic aspect of this. Do you want money, or do you want the system that gives you money without the time, right? So one is you're making a ton of money, and the other is you're not making as much money, but you've got plenty of time. So your time is and this is my opinion, your time is your most important asset, and you cannot work full time in the business and on the business at the same time. In the business is doing the marketing, putting promos together, copywriting, working with graphic designers, all the stuff that it takes to put funnels together. That's in the business. On the business is putting the systems in place and the people in place to run those systems so that you don't need to be there. So getting to the point, though, where you can work on the business means that you're likely going to make less money in the short term, because you're going to be investing in those assets and those people to get them doing the work and running the systems. But in the long term, you're probably going to make more money, or you will make more money, because you're going to have that in place. So it's an important question. So what do you want? And again, there's no right or wrong answer, but for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to assume that you're more longer term focused and you're wanting to build that business and that team, right? And I say that because the rest of the presentation is built on that assumption. Okay, so now we're here. We've gone, again, recapping. We talked about 100K, 0 to 100K is about the marketing, figuring things out, figuring out the product, the market, etc. 100K to $1 million is about putting some important systems in place to support the business. $1 million to $10 million is really about building the infrastructure to support the marketing more so than the marketing itself, right? 100K to $1 million, we started building some of those systems. 1 to 10, we're going to build those out further, right? So it's really more of the same. So you're going to have 2 to 3 products selling, a few hundred a day, and you can get to $10 million a year, right? It's not like you need 30 products. You need 2 or 3 doing a couple hundred sales a day, and you'll be at 10 million. So the challenge here, though, again, which goes back to my question, is you can no longer be responsible for all the marketing you need, right? All the marketing. You've got to find somebody. If you want to go to a $10 million business, an 8-figure business, you've got to find somebody to take over that day to day. And if you decide to focus just on the marketing and outsource the rest, right? Remember the discussion earlier, whether you're going to build in-house or not, you still, if you decide to just focus on marketing and you're going to outsource the rest of the business, then you don't need the following. But all of the following does apply if you're not going to outsource, right? So whatever you do, outsource or not outsource, you're still going to have to find, and I'm suggesting build a marketing team that you strategically direct without you having to actually build pages and buy ads on a day-to-day basis. whether you decide to build or outsource determines whether you have to deal with some of this other stuff. And if you do decide to build it in-house, here's what you've got to think about. You're going to need an ops person, right? This ops person, operations, is going to offload all the details, all the day-to-day stuff off your shoulders so you can help marketing do their thing and you can focus on growing the business. You're going to need some form of HR because as you get employees, you don't need it right away, but you're going to need somebody to help with your regulations, to manage, do employee performance management, all of that stuff. You're going to want to bring finance in-house for a couple reasons. One, for speed of reporting and financial compliance. When I say financial compliance, I mean your tax returns, and not even tax returns, but just your quarterly returns for employees and for sales tax, etc. You're going to need a way to fulfill your orders, and you're going to need a way to support the customers, right? So again, same stuff we talked about earlier, just a little bit more details. So here it is, delegate the marketing and advertising. What you're going to do here is you've got the marketing dialed in, right? And you need to either promote somebody from within your team that you already got working with you, or you need to find someone that can run that product and funnel and start more for you. Again, in the business versus on the business. If you want to move to on the business, somebody's got to be running the marketing in the business every day. So you need someone who can help develop the marketing plan with you and then obviously execute that plan, which you are holding them accountable to. They need to be 100% responsible for customer acquisition and monetization. This is the kind of marketing person I'm talking about. In marketing and advertising in the beginning can be the same person, but eventually you're probably going to want to separate those teams into two teams. Marketers are going to build funnels, build offers, upsells, all of that stuff, email marketing, etc. Advertising drives all the traffic, okay? And if you do that, then you free yourself up to focus on being a CEO and working on the business. So here's your job as a CEO, right? What is a job of a CEO? It is to set the direction and strategy of the business. First and foremost, like where are we going? What business are we in? Why are we in this business? Who's our customer, etc. That's the direction and strategy. This is where I want to go with the business. And this is how we're going to get there. Allocate assets, both terms in people, money, and resources to accomplish that strategy, right? So setting the strategy, setting the plan, and then getting the assets available to handle that. And then you got to hire the right people and delegate the responsibilities and then hold those people accountable in the process. That's also your job. And then you have to connect with and connect to other people in the industry so you can keep track of trends, what's changing, what's working, what's not working, etc. You have a very outward focus. And then you have to find and fix bottlenecks. And what I mean by that is you're looking at your business and you're like, man, that's not working, whatever that is. You know, that piece right there in customer support is not working. Why is that not working? And you dig into it and you figure out, oh, this is why it's not working. And then you either most likely will delegate whoever's responsible for that to fix it, right? And you need to fix this because it's causing these other issues. And then you go find another bottleneck and you fix it. And that's how you routinely and continually improve the business. And so then you have all that, and then ultimately you need time to think. You need the ability to sit there and say, here's where I am, here's where we want to go, how do I do that? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that instead? And that takes time. And I know thinking doesn't sound like it's not a doing job, right? It's not a build a funnel by advertising job, but it's important because if you're not thinking about the business, nobody else is thinking about it either because they're thinking about what they have to do for their job, okay? So here's a little thing that I have found very, very helpful, particularly for me and our business, my business, and also I've seen it in other businesses as well, and that's the visionary implementer dynamic. And these are not my terms. I got this from Traction, Traction, which you can look it up on Amazon. But it's basically Traction is a great book for running a business. It's kind of the plan and the meetings and the way that you do it, the vision, all of that. But what they talk about is a visionary, which is kind of the CEO, who are we, where are we going, how are we getting there? And then you have the implementer, which is usually like your COO or operations person whose whole job is to run that stuff day to day, right? So like visionary people, entrepreneurs by nature are not I want to sit in the office and do everything that needs to be done to make sure the business works. They're hey, I've got this great idea, and if I do this, this, and this, we can generate some revenue and some customers. Yeah, that's awesome, right? And then when it comes down to, most of the time, visionary people are, they're not very detail oriented. They're not very follow through oriented. They're great quick starters though, right? So they're not opposed to take risk, not opposed to try something new and see what happens, and pivot and try a bunch of new things all the time. And that's why visionaries and implementers are a great combination, because the implementer can take care of all those details. And oftentimes the implementer can say, hey, Mr. Visionary, no more ideas right now, dude. Chill out and let us execute our current plan. Then we can do more, right? Because sometimes visionaries get so many things going that nothing actually gets done. And ultimately, if you're going to build a big business, you need both, right? Because if you're a visionary, then you're going to have a hard time getting all this stuff done, because you're just naturally wired to create more stuff. And the implementer is naturally wired to do stuff, but not much of a visionary. So you got to figure out which one you are, and then find your complement and work. So it's not something that you're going to get immediately. It's going to take some time, but when you get that combination, you'll know, because things work really, really well, right? So finally, the last point on there is that if you choose to run all of your stuff in-house, then you need a very strong operations person, because they need to be able to handle it all. If you're outsourcing it all, you still need an ops person, but they're able to follow up with all of your outsourced providers, and it won't be as strong. They don't need to be as strong as they do if you're running it in-house. Okay, so fulfillment. Right, so we talked about things that we need, and things that we're changing. So here's the thing: if you're going to run fulfillment in-house, that you actually, and again, this is big picture. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what you're getting into. Right, you're going to need a warehouse, and you're going to need space to store all of your inventory. How much space and how much warehouse depends on how much you're selling and how much you plan on selling. You're going to need workers to handle all those orders. You need a supervisor, because somebody, it could be the ops person at first, but eventually, depending on how big you get, you're going to have a warehouse supervisor that takes care of it. You need insurance to cover all that. That's, again, business stuff. You need shipping software. You're going to need accounts and agreements with shippers, and you're going to need to optimize everything by weight and location and shipment type and all the other stuff that goes with running a fulfillment warehouse. And then you're going to want to automate all that as much as possible. And I know, again, that's big picture, but there's a lot that goes into the fulfillment side if you want to run it in-house. It is a simple aspect once you get it, but there's a lot to figure out along the way. Call center is kind of similar. You're going to need a building. It can be the same building. If you've got a warehouse, you can put everybody in the same building. You're going to need call reps that are going to take your calls, and then you're going to need somebody with call center experience to manage that call center. And again, like the warehouse, it can be your ops person at first, but eventually you're going to need a manager that sits there and makes sure everybody's doing their job. Got to have a phone system. Excuse me. Got to have training for the reps, making sure they're not saying the wrong thing and what they do need to do, not need to do. And then you need to have automation, again, to direct the calls to the right people, right? Is it customer service or sales or saves or whatever? So again, big picture here. And I'm purposefully making this part of it less detailed, because for most of you, if you're just starting out, 10 million is a long way away, right? So it's one of those things where you got to see the next step in front of you before you worry about what's there. So you got to get up to the next step. So there is obviously a lot more details to it, but this is high level answers. So then you got finance, right? You still have your regular reporting needs, right? You got to know where your numbers are. At least you should be looking, 1 to 10 million plus. You should be 2 times a week at least. So you're getting updates on your P&L. You know where you're at as a business. You're going to need a bookkeeper, who is the person entering, bookkeeper or 2, depending on how much volume you have. And then you need a controller, who's actually the accountant that's closing out the books, right? And since you're hiring people, you're now going to have forms and reports to fill and pay quarterly. Again, it depends on whether you handle payroll inside or outside, but you'll have payroll to deal with. Somebody's got to manage the cash. Again, another job. Even as CEO, you can't sit there and manage cash all the time and focus on growing the business and opportunities. Credit cards, bank accounts, merchant accounts, all that's got to be managed. And as I've said a bazillion times, you can't run your business without numbers, so you're going to need somebody paying attention to all that. Okay? So, finance, onward. HR. HR you don't really have if you don't have employees. HR is human resources. And employees come with regulations. You got to talk to them a certain way. You got to treat them a certain way. You got to make sure that you hire and fire a certain way. Obviously, each state depends on, like, rules in California are different than they are in Texas. You got to deal with interpersonal employee issues, right? Like sexual harassment and any of the other issues that happen because employees don't behave properly. Forms and documents, yada, yada. You can see it all here, right? Recruiting, benefits if you offer it. And I talked about payroll a minute ago, whether you do that in-house or you do a PEO, professional employer organization. And you got taxes to pay. So again, high-level stuff, but certainly more to think about as you get bigger. It's not, if you're doing it in-house, there's certainly more items to consider. So, I talk with people and they're like, well, when do I hire, right? So here's my comments on hiring as you go. Like, hire slow and fire fast, right? It's a lot easier to hire somebody than it is to get rid of them for a variety of reasons. One, you have your regulatory issues of how you do it, right? Potential lawsuits, etc. The secondary issue you have is that once you've hired them, they now have access to your business and everything that you're doing. And depending on the position, they could have access to very sensitive information. So then you have to, if you're going to get rid of them, how do you lock them out of all that? How do you change passwords, et cetera, et cetera? So it's a lot easier to hire than fire. And that's why I say hire slow, fire fast. That's kind of the catchphrase. And here's some things to consider. Can you change the system that you're working to make it more efficient? Or can you change the work altogether? Can you cut it out or change it altogether? Can you pay for a product or service that already solves the problem so you don't have to hire somebody? And if the answer is no, then you probably need a person to do that. If the answer is yes, then do that because it's going to be cheaper than hiring somebody, right? And then ultimately, do you have the job and the responsibilities fully outlined and documented the way they need to be so that when you bring that person in, you know what to hold them accountable for, right? Because you hire somebody, you can't just drop them in and say, go to work. They got to have expectations. They need goals that they're going to go after, etc. So you got to kind of have a job description and your responsibilities outlined. So here's the thing. As we're starting to wrap up here, we're getting towards the end. Everything I'm telling you is a process, right? The skill set that you need after $1 million, it shifts from marketing to business building and leadership. It's a different job. And you need to make a conscious choice if you want to go there. Again, like I said, you can build $1 million or a 10 million plus business just being marketing. And that is totally okay and totally doable. But you need to make a conscious choice about that. And if that's what you want to do, then outsource all the stuff you don't want to mess with and just focus on the marketing and drive sales, drive advertising, get it all done, and make as much money as you possibly can. But if you don't and you're going to, shift and do it internally, then you've got other things to consider. And it's not about marketing now becomes a piece, not the thing you have to worry about, right? And you don't want to outgrow your team's capacity because that starts having problems. Everybody in every business at some point gets outgrown depending on when they started and how the business grows, right? So people that are good for you on 100K to $1 million may not be the same people for $1 million to 10 million. And the ones at $1 million to 10 million may not be the ones that take you from 10 million to 20 or 30. It's different skill sets at different levels, and you have to make sure you're choosing the right people. So the question is, how do you tell? How do you tell if you're outgrowing your team's capacity? And the answer is pretty simple because things are always broken, right? They don't get permanently fixed. Something's continually wrong, and usually it's the same thing that's continually wrong. It's not you break something in fulfillment and then something breaks in call center and then something breaks in marketing. I mean, that's part of the process. But if those get fixed and everything moves forward, you're good. But if something breaks in your fulfillment and it breaks again and it stays broken and it doesn't get fixed, and every time you come into the office or work, you're like, what the hell am I solving the same problem over and over again? You've got a people problem. It should have been fixed a long time ago. And definitely the speed of growth will affect that. If you're growing super fast, your people have got to be on point. They have got to be able to handle more than where they're at. That's why I'm saying, depending on your process, sometimes it's better, going back to that long-term versus short-term view, is sometimes it's better to hire more than you need so that you have the capacity to go to that next level than where you're at. If you just hire for the next level, then you've got to go rehire to get to the next one. So sometimes it's better to hire for that second next level so that you can just kind of smoothly grow through the one you're shooting at, if that makes sense. Ultimately, as you grow that business or grow your business from $1 million plus, it becomes more about who and not what. Like the what is in the beginning, the what and the how, the marketing, the market, the product, etc. After that, it becomes about building a team. It becomes about building a system and a team of people that run that system. And I've got Be the Board on here, and I'll just tell you a little anecdote that has been very impactful for me over the last many years, which is I was talking with a guy named Robert, and he was telling me, he was using this metaphor that one of his mentors told him, which was, look, imagine business is a game of chess, right? And if you've ever played chess, you know there's a lot of pieces. Imagine business is a game of chess. Which piece are you as the CEO? And most people are like, I'm the king, or I'm the queen, or whatever, the most powerful piece on the board. And the answer is you're none of the pieces. As the CEO and the head of the company, your job's to be the board, right? And be the board means that you're not like board of directors, but be the chessboard. Be the board that all the other pieces work on. And what I mean by that is you're creating a game that they want to play. That's the ultimate takeaway. It's like being the board means creating a game that they want to play so that they come in and they're excited about their job, they're excited about the business, they're excited about everything, and they're ready to rock and roll. And they get all the work done because they're excited to do it. That's what being the board is, which goes back to the fact that, shifting in size is more about leadership and business building and management than it is about marketing at that point. So a couple of great books that can help you with a lot of this stuff in more detail. Traction, I already mentioned that one. Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish. Vern started EO years ago. It's a great organization, and Scaling Up is his kind of like Rockefeller Habits 2.0, which talks about and addresses a lot of things we talked about on a surface level here and a lot more depth. So I would certainly recommend those. So here's something to consider. I realize that not everybody wants to build a big business, and if you just want to focus on marketing, you want to grow without worrying about all the stuff that we talked about. I've started offering a lot of these services that I built out for myself to other marketers: the fulfillment, the call center, the regulatory, the HR, the finance, et cetera, through a company that I call Be Fulfilled Systems. And we can handle all that day-to-day stuff. Plus, I can provide one of the benefits that I think is value add is I provide the marketing insight of things you can do to bump your marketing results as well. And that doesn't cost anything. I mean, I'm happy if you're working with us. I'm happy to provide that to you and for you. So if that's something like if you need those services or you think that might be a route that you want to go, by all means reach out. There's my email address, steve@befulfilledsystems.com, and we can have a discussion to see if it's a fit. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not pitching anything. I'm just putting it out there as a resource. Hopefully this presentation has been super helpful for you. I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. And I'm pretty sure, I know for a fact that as you grow, you're going to run through stuff that I've seen and solved already, and I'm happy to help you do that. So if you want that help or need that help, reach out and let's have a conversation. So at this point, it's quick Q&A here. What did I not cover? What do I need to clarify more? And what would you like to learn more about? So if you'll let me know, I can answer those questions, and then we can be done. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you for sitting here. I think it's been almost 2 hours working on this, and maybe a little bit longer than that. And I hope, like I said, you got a lot of value out of this. I've took a long time to put it together, put my heart and soul in it, so to say, and I hope you got a lot out of it. So again, you've got my number and information, name here, Steve at Be Fulfilled Systems. Reach out if you have questions or need help, and I hope everything goes well for you. Good luck to you, and I will talk to you soon.